Welcome to the Company of Dads podcast, where we explore the sweet, silly, strange, and sublime aspects of being a lead dad in a world where men, who are the go-to parent, aren't always accepted at work, among their friends, or in the community for what they're doing. I'm your host, Paul Sullivan. Our podcast is just one of the many things we produce each week at the Company of Dads. We have various features, including the Lead Dad of the Week. We have our community, online and in person. We have a new resource library for all fathers. The one-stop shop for all of this is our newsletter, The Dad. So sign up at thecompanyofdads.com/The Dad. Today, my guest is Doug Patton, inventor and dad. We're going to talk about his newest design, a putter for golf, that he created with his daughter Heather and son Sean. Doug is the founder of Patton Design, which has created over 200 products in 20 different market segments, from biomedical equipment to fragrances. Welcome, Doug, to the Company of Dads podcast.
Well, thank you very much, Paul. I'm looking forward to our conversation today. I hope you're doing well also.
What's the first thing you built? What's the first thing you invented when you think way back?
Now that is a soul-searching question because I've been inventing since I was a little kid, and I don't know how far to take this back, but I'll take it. I'll turn the dial, the time-lapse dial back to maybe when I first started my company, and I created a new way to inject foldable lenses into the capsular bag of your eye for cataract surgery. I had the serendipity and luck to be with someone called Tom Mazzocco, who was an innovative inventor for ophthalmic surgery. And he invented a way to put a foldable lens in the capsular bag of your eye for cataracts. Up until then, it was like an 8mm glass lens. And but he hadn't invented a way to inject it into your eye. He had the idea of folding it, that, it would fold and would go into your eye and open. But there was all this energy. So I, along with him, I did my own thing called Patton Medical and invented a injector and that could inject into the eye and control the fold, and it was disposable. Being a young inventor, I licensed it for mere pennies on what I could have done. But now every surgery in the world that happens for cataract surgery uses my invention.
That's pretty amazing. How many years ago was that you invented it?
Early, like 1984.
Wow. Was your background in sort of, biomedical devices like this, or
No,
how did you start as an inventor?
I have never been. Well, let me take one step back to take two steps forward. I was always in athletics. Okay. I was known in high school as the jock geek, right? I'd be in football, baseball.
So does that mean that you beat yourself up, or what does that mean when you're both the jock and the geek? You're like,
well, that I would hang out with the football team, and but then my real intellect fun was at the analytical math class, where we were working on like calculus equations or something like that. Or there was an electronics lab, a big building. It was Homestead High in Sunnyvale, just for electronics. And to give you an idea of the kind of people were in there, my lab partner was Steve Jobs, who lived 5 houses down from me on Chris Drive. But I had the intellect side, right?
Was he any good at it? Was he any good?
Oh, he was. Oh, this is a story in itself. His dad was electronic engineer at Fairchild, and we were trying to build AM radios, and he was coming in with lasers that he and his dad built. People don't realize Steve Jobs was an electronics genius. He built his AM radio in days, and it took me almost the whole semester. So that's why I knew my forte was not electronics engineering. But to get to the center point of your question is that I always looked at the idea of sports and intellect as one intersecting whole. I never saw it as something separated. And where I would be brave and courageous, when I wanted to make a play in football and I know my body might get hurt, I would be the same way with intellectual adventure. I have never been afraid of designing an endoscopic robotic microsurgery system or a new flickering flame candle for Disney, which turned into a company. I just don't see borders to taking on intellectual challenges. And to me, it's why I do this. It's fun. It's an every day I have a new invention. Right now I have 8 startup companies, and
Right.
it's an intellectual cornucopia of invention. So that's the way I've always been. Sports and intellect, same thing.
Is there a through line though when you're inventing, very different products? You have something for your eye, something, a candle. You talked about fragrances. We're going to talk about the putter you made later. Is there sort of an intellectual through line that connects all these various inventions?
There is. I think one is that, the book I wrote about a year and a half ago called Conquering the Chaos of Creativity, I wrote to help people that are beginning creationists, as well as advanced thinkers that kind of have lost their mojo to be creative. And what I always valued, Paul, more importantly than the product I designed, is the process that I created it in. So what I would do is I had probably about 20 lab books with notes of how I figured something out or how I would do it. Plus, I had all the intuitive knowledge of how I would invent over the years. So about 10 years ago, I decided to write a book to help people to record my theories of creativity. And creativity involves much more than the analytics that a lot of people think about, or just the emotion. It's the psychology, it's the actual spirituality, it's the connectivity of your imagination to your intellect. And that is the through line. That is the connection. That if you have a problem-solving process that is powerful, anything is possible. And I like to quote Einstein, which is one of my favorite inventors. And he would say when he would invent, he wouldn't use math, which he was a genius of. He wouldn't use language. He would use symbols and what he called architectures of thought. And I connected with that because that's very similar to how I think. I have this kind of creative construct that I think in that is not based upon language. It's based upon kind of advanced symbols of thought. And when you're doing that, you can connect massive amounts of information much better than you can just with mathematics or language. This is a discussion, hours discussion unto itself. We're kind of walking over the lily pads of thought, as it were. And we can't, if we stay on one, we're going to sink deep into it.
Yeah, I understand. But, you're a father of, do you have the 2 kids?
Yeah, my daughter, Heather, and my son, Sean.
And how old are they?
My daughter is 36 and my son is 22. And I'm about to have my first grandchild in 3 months. Heather is pregnant. So I will also be a grandfather soon, which I have told them I will be the person that is there for babysitting, for taxi service. I don't care what it is. You guys want the night out? I am there, buddy. I'll probably have to so that's the deal with that.
Yeah, but I think I'm a father of 3. My girls, all girls, 6, 11, and 14 at this point.
Those are great ages.
They're great, but there are moments of creativity when you're answering, helping them answer a question, helping them solve a problem. But a lot of parenting is very repetitive and sort of the antithesis of creativity. How did you meld the two when you're building your businesses? You're this really creative inventor, yet, parenthood is sort of the opposite of it. What was it like being the inventor dad?
I don't think so. See, for me, the center point, and I'll just be, really honest with you. Everyone knows this. Even now, when my daughter calls me or my son calls me, I don't care what meeting I'm in. Excuse me, I'm answering the phone. Okay. Yeah. And that started when they were young. And, they've always been around invention. Okay. They grew up watching it and absorbing it. And, I'm under the concept that kids don't do what you say, they become who you are. They absorb you
Yeah, they
and
watch
the
you. They don't
environment.
listen to you. They watch you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so for example, I had a music room at the house, and I still do. And Heather ended up being in a band, and amazing girls band, and Sean became an amazing guitarist and trumpet player, and inventions everywhere. And I would paint. I'm also an artist, and my daughter took the course of art where she became an incredible artist, just unbelievable. And she, even after she graduated from art school, she says, "Dad, I want to go to Paris with my girlfriend for a year." I said, "Okay, well, you have to have a job, if you're going to be there." I guess I could, because we'll pay for her apartment on the left bank, everything. But she actually learned French and got a job at Musée d'Orsay, which is like next to the Louvre,
Yeah.
is the biggest museum, as the graphic designer there. So I always taught Heather to be bold and also fearless about whatever she wants to do. And now, after many years, she works at Patton Design doing branding, graphic design, user interface design. Or she doesn't really work for me. I more or less work for her, because I created a powerful intellect and supported it. And she has absolutely no problem when we're talking in front of many people say, "No, I don't think, Dad, I don't think that's right. I think we should do it." And I have to tell you, I am the proudest dad in the world, because she thinks she's laying it to me, and I'm looking up at God saying, "Thank you, that
Yeah.
she wants to work with me."
Yeah.
That is a major thing, because my dad had a construction company, and he wanted me to work for him, and it was always on his terms. And one thing, and I could never do it for many reasons. That's another hour conversation. But I wanted to make sure it's on her terms. So we have our office in Newport Beach, and she lives in L.A., and her husband is a production designer in Hollywood. So they're kind of linked into the Hollywood scene. So we even have a building for her to work at in L.A. And the bottom line is that kids are the focal point, have always been, of my life. And the same with Sean. I mean, he just graduated from SMU with a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. And he already has a patent. He has his name on 4 patents.
Wow.
And he's worked for me since he was 12, every summer. And he's better than half the people here in
What's he
terms
done?
of.
What did he do for you when he's working for you over the summer? What were some of the jobs he did for you?
He now he used to do more industrial design, where he'd be doing design work, but again, he took more of the scientific approach than where his sister took the artistic approach. He worked on a new idea for a linear peristaltic pump for infusion, and we got a patent on it. And he also worked on a method of heating the back of the knee and the foot to as a disposable, to keep your core body temperature high during surgery, and it normally drops. So he's a brilliant young kid.
What are the dinner conversations like at your house with these two, super creative, brilliant kids?
Absolutely. Can you put down your phone so we can talk?
All right.
No. They have very diverse thoughts, and we don't talk about invention at all. We talk about everything but that. I mean, my son is an avid reader, so does my daughter. They're when they talk together, they're on a different plane. They are very knowledgeable of all music groups, and they're talking everything but like invention, which is probably intentional, but it's kind of fun conversation, just like any other family, but
Yeah.
I let the kids lead the way.
I want to get to the part on how you work together. But before we get there, you alluded to your dad and his construction company. I mean, so many, family-owned businesses, the person who created it, the patriarch or the matriarch, would love for his or her children to work in the business, but it doesn't, there are tons of stories of it going wrong,
Yeah.
or people being forced into something that they really want to be a chef, and they're making cars, and how do you think it's worked out with you that both of your kids are involved in what you're doing?
Well, I would say what I learned from my dad in the construction company was that it was going to be, there was no room for me to take it the direction that I wanted. He had his kind of a compartment that I would fit in. And I got really good at it. I could take a 20-yard 630 scraper and cut plus or minus quarter inch on moving ground, or I could estimate, I had a full sense of the company, and he wanted me to take it over. But the problem is I was always the inventor guy. I had to always be inventing, and I had this over rambunctious thought process, and I could just never, I just couldn't do it. But the point is, I probably would have if he had given me a space to grow. And what I thought after I had my kids, I'm not going to make the same mistake. And that's part of the cycle of life, isn't it, Paul? Where we try to learn as parents.
Hopefully we try to learn from what didn't work in the past. Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's I think it is. I think it's probably worthy of another conversation sometime about how parents repeat their parents' mistakes with their kids. And for this one, it was imprinted on me pretty hard. So my goal has always been that I'll give them the environment and they take it any way they want. And that is the key. It is allowing your son or daughter to not work for you, work with you. And if you have enough flexibility with your business, allow them to say, okay, what do you want to do? How can I help you do it? Like Sean might want to, he's into medical, he's getting his master's at University of Washington now, and he's interested in medical robotics. And he goes, Dad, I don't know if I want to do stuff that you do. And I said, well, Sean, let's figure out what we want to do together, and I'll help support you. I'll put you in office. I'll give you some money and you go off on your own, or you could work with me, whatever you want. Because it's all about our kids' success and empowering them in a way that supports their passion. And I guess the final word on that they're probably tired of me saying, I've said since the kids were really young, find your passion. It doesn't matter what you do, because the people who haven't found their passion in life are a little empty. And the most important thing, find your passion and follow it.
That's wonderful. Where did golf come into all of this? Because obviously you had to be an avid golfer before you'd think to invent your own putter. So how does golf fit into this?
I'm a late starter. I started in my 30s, and like a lot of weekend golfers, enjoyed it. And I would go through times of total dedication to improving myself, and then total abstinence out of being busy. And I fluctuated in and out of it. And, my son started playing when he was 6. We'd go to the driving range and we'd hit balls. And now what's kind of both elating and depressing for me, I'll go out with him. We just came back from Hawaii about a month and a half ago, and he hardly plays golf. So he's like the perfect golf physique, right? He's like 6'1", flexible like a rubber band, and he hardly ever plays. And we were playing at this champion tee at the Monolani, the 15th hole, where you have to hit it. If you're brave, it's like a 260-yard drive over the ocean, even with the wind. And he just sits up and he goes, "Pchoom!" His arm is flexible, and I'm a weightlifter still. I still lift weights like 4 days a week. So I have the opposite. So right. he just kills it, and I'm relegated now to enjoying it. But see, the thing is, my brain keeps tinkering with technology, right? And what bothered me about putters that I had, first of all, they were all in my, okay, create a little precedence for this.
Yeah, before you do, so let's set the scene for the listeners.
Okay.
You know, non-golfers. I play a lot of golf. You can see in the background here, but you know, people always want new drivers, but really the putter, you're going to use the putter for more than half your strokes, generally about half your strokes in a round of golf. If you're playing, even if you're playing at the top of your game, you're going to hit it, 34, 36 times. It's crucial, but it's the most psychological club in your bag, maybe next to your driver, because essentially the ball is there on the green. You've just advanced it hundreds and hundreds of yards, and now you have to advance it maybe 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet.
The hardest 10 feet of your life.
The hardest 10 feet of your life. And so the world is full of all kinds of variations on the putter, and people have, even the pros go through this where they'll have, 100 or 200 putters in the garage, and suddenly they'll pull one out that they used in high school and they'll win 3 tournaments in a row. So that's setting the scene for the non-obsessive golfer, as I'm feeling you are, Doug, and I certainly am. So here it is. So now the inventor's mind comes in, and you're tinkering, and tell us the story of how the idea for the putter, the Patton Eagle, comes about.
I'm always inventing. Okay. Like I told you, I have about 8 startups right now, and I'm trying not to create 2 more because it is exhausting to take a company. It takes about 3 or 4 years to take a company to success. And but I have an overwhelming amount of ideas. And what started me with the putter was that, first of all, most of the putters I saw, at least aesthetically, I thought were very ugly and were superficially conceived. And then the science behind it, I started looking at it, and I started analyzing the science of what would make the best putter. And there's some simple things. Move the weight to the outside, move it forward. Try to do, look at different things. There's a lot of different theories on how it works. But then I started analyzing it. I putting it into the CAD programs, and even a golf ball being a little over an ounce can create an effect on a putter. That minuscule little touch has a force, right? Yeah. And so then I started playing with, I guess what would really be good is if there's some way to create a sweet spot and a center point. And so I started playing in CAD with it. And then I started making prototypes. I have a little table. There's there's about 12 prototypes. And I did this over 10 years. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of other inventions, but I would always, I have some time to work on it now. And, I have a great factory that works with me, and we started prototyping, because the only way to really understand it is to use the exact materials. And I had a theory in CAD, and I started making it, and I went through probably 8 versions of the final design, because my goal was to create kind of like a tuning fork that. Mm-hmm. When you hit a tuning fork, it's kind of like, these 2 rods that come up, and you hit it, it has a sound. Well, by looking at the putter with just that small little 1.5-ounce putter hit to the ball, there would be a harmonic force. Okay.
Yeah.
I tuned it to that. And the way I did it is a combination of stainless and aluminum, an open area in the center, and this kind of sharp point that emanated from the center. That I did my best to create this tuning fork technology. So what my goal was that when I hit it, I could feel it a little bit. And a lot of people that have tried it for the first time have said, yeah, this feels different. You have to hit it, though, right in the center. Yeah. That's the deal. If you hit it off, it messes up. You got to hit it right in the center. And there is a minor, if you listen to your putter, got to listen to it, got to feel it, got to be like alert to it.
So don't swear at your putter. Don't swear at your putter. Listen to your putter. Is that what you're saying?
I look down every other way when I miss. But yeah, I think the thing is that I haven't had this exact conversation with anyone to this kind of description, But I have said that you have to stay alert to it. You have to stay sensitive. A lot of people, when they putt, it's kind of like a numb experience. You kind of, you move your shoulders and you hit it. But with this, if you're sensitive and you're holding the club light, right, just very lightly in your hands, you can feel a little bit of a resonance, and in that you can shape the ball, you can move the ball better. And but besides that, the design of it is something that I worked with Heather on. I worked with Sean on all the FEA kind of engineering stuff. But
what does FEA?
Heather,
What does FEA mean?
Finite element analysis,
Okay.
where you can put into a computer anything and it will show you the effect of the collision or the stress or strain. Okay. And so with Heather, we're trying to think of names, and we came up with a lot, but I said, what about the eagle? The albatross is really an amazing one, but that just sounds so rare, but we settled for eagle. And so we, Heather she does all the branding, and she's won award. There's a award organization, very prestigious in Paris, the Paris International Design Awards. And she's won many awards for the design of the graphics for my book, for my other company, A Rome Day Art, and now recently for the putter. Just got it a few weeks ago. But so she designed the eagle from scratch, and we went through a lot of designs. And then what really transformed the design, I said, let's make the putter an icon for the eagle shape. So we have on our website this animation of how the eagle icon transforms to the top U shape of the putter. It is basically an icon. The putter is an icon of the eagle. So it is the perfect synthesis of branding and science.
Yeah.
Heather and Sean.
Did you go to your kids and ask them to be part of this? Did they just see you tinkering on this putter over the course of, as you said, about a decade? How do they come to be involved with?
Easy. I said, Heather, will you design the logo? Will you design the branding? What do you think? Sean, will you work on this? Okay, Dad.
Oh, all right. Did they ever roll their eyes and say, Dad, how do you go from, medical devices to a putter with, something for fragrances and candles in between?
They just know that's Dad.
Okay.
That's me. They grew up with it. I mean, I have designed hundreds of things, and they just assumed that that's normal with me.
Yeah.
That doesn't every dad do that, kind of house.
Now I have to ask you, what was the reception when you surely you have golfing buddies, what was the reception when you unveiled the Patton Eagle putter wherever you play golf and you started rolling the rock with it on the green?
Well, Oak Creek is my closest golf course. It's about 2 miles from my house. And I just got the first shipment in, and I went to the putting green at the starter's desk at Oak Creek, and I said, can you just let me do this? He goes, well, I'll just give you 10 minutes. You're not supposed to be here. And the two guys there are, one of the guys was a club pro, and the other guy, and I said, what is that? And I said, well, that's my new invention, the Patton Eagle. Wow, I think it's a work of art. That is the most beautiful putter I've ever seen. And I go, wow. And I said, well, it has haptic feedback. And they said, what the hell is that? I've worked with a lot of putters. This is just another marketing scheme. Give me this thing. And so then they left the desk and they started putting it, and they go, oh my God, you could feel the ball. Hey,
Right.
Jim, look at this. You could feel it. And they were putting it a little bit, and they actually were, I guess, some of the first people that bought it. I said, hell, I'll just give it to you, So yeah, that was like one, but I have it in my office, and I have, like, I won't tell you whose putter, but it's a very famous, a well-known putter. And they putt with that, and I say, try this. Oh my God, that other thing feels like a brick.
You don't have one of the copies of Tiger Woods putter, do you?
Pardon me?
You don't have one of Tiger Woods' putters, do you? One of the copies of?
I wish I did.
Oh no. Who's the, you can't leave it out. Who's the very famous person whose putter you have? I want to know.
It's not a famous person. It's just a brand name, and I don't want to. I don't want to put a brand name down. Because that's not ethical. To say, well, this putter. I would put them all in. Actually, what I would do, I'm kind of a revolutionary when I invent. It seems like everything I invent is so new that it takes a long time for it to catch on. But I think, say, most putters fall into the same category. I've got like 10 putters of the most advanced ones, and none of them have thought of this idea.
Yeah.
They haven't taken this analytical approach. They've been doing things kind of like car companies. Like, they'll change the styling on a car, but not improve it. Right. So everyone thinks, oh, here's the new car. Well, it's the same car, but it just has some different lines.
Yeah. Doug, this has been a great conversation. One last question. You've had a lot of success, as an inventor. It's wonderful that you've got your kids, involved in the business, through their own expertise. What's your goal going forward? Not just with this putter, but as a father and as an inventor, what's your goal going forward?
That's a big conversation. I'll just try to bring it forward right now. I just got my daughter and her husband the really cool stroller that they wanted for their baby shower. It's like the super one with all the cool things on it. And my goal is to help out with my grandchild, to help my daughter, is to help. So my son is off to Seattle to be a mechanical engineering master at something, and to support that. I'm at work. I just want to wake up every day and have a mental challenge. That is really, it is it's the process, right? I've been very lucky to be successful. And, the way I look at it, I retired 10 years ago, but I just invent for fun. So I just want to invent. And if I want to get more spiritual and how I really feel, everything I invent is to help humanity. I don't do things to make a battery last 10 hours longer. Where people experience it, it helps them. And to bring it back to the fold of this conversation, I hope people will get the putter and they'll hit it, and that little epiphany, wow, that feels good. Even little things are incredibly important in our life, because as you and I know, being a dad, there's very little time for sometimes your own pleasure. You're busy giving, and that little touch of the ball and hitting it into the hole is quite an extravagant feeling that doesn't happen too often with me.
You're absolutely right. Doug Patton, dad and inventor, thank you for being my guest today on the Company of Dads
Paul.
Podcast.
Nice talking to you.
Thank you for listening to the Company of Dads podcast. I also want to thank the people who make this podcast and everything else that we do at the Company of Dads possible. Helder Mira, who is our audio producer. Lindsay Decker, who handles all of our social media. Terry Brennan, who's helping us with the newsletter and audience acquisition. Emily Servin, who is our web maestro. And of course, Evan Roosevelt, who is working side by side with me in many of the things that we do here at the Company of Dads. It's a great team, and we're just trying to bring you the best in fatherhood. Remember, the one-stop shop for everything is our newsletter, The Dad. Sign up at thecompanyofdads.com/thedad. Thank you again for listening.